Right, let's talk about gods. Not the ones on Mount Olympus throwing lightning bolts and turning into swans. No, I'm talking about the gods of the Grand Prix. The men who strapped themselves into what were essentially carbon fiber coffins with rocket engines bolted to the back, and then proceeded to dance on the very edge of physics, sanity, and often, life itself. These weren't just drivers, they were gladiators, artists, and sometimes utter madmen. Now you might be thinking, what does a chap who usually shouts about V8 engines know about this? Well, I know passion when I see it, I know genius. And I know the smell of petrol and hot rubber, which is the incense of the Church of Motorsport. We're gonna look at the titans, the absolute legends who define Formula One. From the cerebral tacticians to the raw, pedal-to-the-metal maniacs. And in the middle of all this, there was one man who was different. A man who seemed to have a direct line to the weather gods themselves. A man who could make a racing car do things that were, frankly, impossible. He was more than a driver, he was a phenomenon. But before we get to him, we must first pay our respects to the other deities of the asphalt. This is the story of the greatest drivers to ever grace Formula One. First, let's talk about the German, Michael Schumacher. You can't have a conversation about the greatest without mentioning the Red Baron. The man was less a driver and more a relentless Teutonic winning machine. 7 world titles, that number is just preposterous. It's like winning the World Cup 7 times by yourself. He didn't just join Ferrari, He dragged that shambling, passionate, but ultimately chaotic Italian team from the depths of mediocrity and forged it into an unstoppable empire of speed. It was a dynasty built on sheer, bloody-minded determination. His work ethic was the stuff of legend. While other drivers were off sunning themselves on yachts in Monaco, Schumacher was back at the factory poring over telemetry, testing, pushing, always pushing. He had this incredible ability to extract every last thousandth of a second from the car, from himself, from the team. His focus was absolute. On the track, he was clinical, sometimes controversial, but always fast. He would do laps in testing that were as quick as his qualifying laps, just for the hell of it. Some said he lacked the flair of other drivers, that his dominance was boring. Boring? Winning 91 Grand Prix is not boring. It's methodical genius. It's a masterclass in relentless perfection. He was the Terminator of Formula One, an unstoppable force that redefined what it meant to be a complete racing driver. You didn't just race against Schumacher, you raced against an entire system he had perfected, and for a very long time, nobody could even get close. And then, from the era of red dominance, we moved to the age of silver, and now black, Lewis Hamilton. If Schumacher was the Terminator, Hamilton is the rock star. 7 world titles, tying the German's seemingly untouchable record. But with Lewis, the numbers, as staggering as they are, don't tell the whole story. We're talking over 100 wins, over 100 pole positions. He hasn't just broken the records, he's obliterated them, launched them into a different postcode. He arrived in Formula One not with a knock but by kicking the door off its hinges. A rookie, going toe-to-toe with a double world champion in the same team, and very nearly winning the title in his first year. It was audacious, it was brilliant, his raw speed is simply breathtaking. Give him a car, any car, and he will wring its neck until it gives him every last drop of performance. His car control is sublime, a delicate, intuitive dance between grip and slip that few can ever hope to master. But his impact goes far beyond the circuit. He's used his platform to talk about things far more important than tire degradation and downforce levels. He's become a global icon, a fashionista, a voice for change. He has transcended the sport. Some of the old guard might grumble about it, but the fact is, he has brought more eyes to Formula One than anyone since the other giants on this list. He is, without question, the standard-bearer of the modern era. And now we get to him, Ayrton Senna da Silva. If the others were gods of victory and statistics, Senna was the god of passion, the god of poetry and motion. The numbers are, of course, brilliant 3 world titles, 41 wins, 65 poles. But with Senna, the numbers are just the footnotes to the real story. He didn't just drive a racing car, he communed with it. There was a spiritual connection between man and machine that was almost frightening to behold. His qualifying laps in particular were things of savage beauty, moments where he seemed to go into a trance, pushing beyond the limits of what was thought possible. And then, there was the rain. When the heavens opened, everyone else slowed down. They became timid, cautious. Not Senna. For him the rain was an invitation. It was his stage. He would get faster. His car control in the wet was supernatural. It defied logic. Monaco 84, Donington 93. These weren't just drives, they were miracles on water. He could feel grip where there was none, dancing the car on a knife edge with a sublime, almost arrogant grace. He wasn't just the rainmaster, he was the rain. His rivalry with Alain Prost was the stuff of legend, a bitter, all-consuming war between two geniuses with polar opposite philosophies. It was speed versus intellect, heart versus head. It defined an era. But beyond the rivalries and the wins, there was an intensity, a burning fire in his eyes that captivated the world. His tragic death at Imola in '94 didn't just rob Formula One of its greatest talent, it felt like it ripped the very soul out of the sport. He remains to this day the benchmark for raw, unadulterated genius. You cannot of course speak of Senna without speaking of his nemesis, the Frenchman, Alain Prost, nicknamed Le Professeur for a very good reason. Where Senna was all fire and instinct, Prost was ice and intellect. He was a four-time world champion, and he didn't achieve that through sheer blistering pace alone. No, Prost's genius was more subtle, more cerebral. He played the long game. He understood that a championship isn't won in one corner but over 16 races. He was the master of thinking 3 laps ahead. Prost drove with his brain. He was incredibly smooth, famously easy on his equipment. His driving style was so economical that his tires and fuel would last longer than anyone else's. While others were wrestling their cars, fighting for control, Prost's car looked like it was on rails. He would set the car up perfectly for the race, not for a single, glorious qualifying lap. He knew that points made prizes, and he collected them with the quiet efficiency of a master accountant. He would let you think you had him beaten, only to cruise past you 10 laps from the end as your tires turned to dust. His battles with Senna were a clash of titans, a perfect storm of opposing forces. Senna, the warrior poet, against Prost, the grandmaster of chess at 200 miles per hour. It was a rivalry that often descended into acrimony and outright warfare, but it was born from a mutual, if grudging, respect for the other's immense talent. Prost was the thinking man's champion, a driver whose brilliance you appreciated more the longer you watched him. A true, calculating giant of the sport. Before all of them, before the glamour of Monaco and the billion-dollar television deals, there was a man who set the very first standard for greatness. Juan Manuel Fangio, the original maestro. We are talking about the 1950s, an era of unimaginable danger. The cars were primitive, the tracks were lethal road circuits lined with trees and houses, and the drivers were heroes in the truest sense of the word. And in this gladiatorial arena, Fangio was king. 5 world championships, a record that stood for nearly half a century. What made Fangio extraordinary was his adaptability. He won his 5 titles with 4 different manufacturers: Alfa Romeo, Ferrari, Mercedes, and Maserati. Think about that. It's like a chef winning Michelin stars in an Italian kitchen, then a French one, then a Japanese one. He could get into any car, and, within minutes, be on the absolute limit. He didn't have telemetry or simulators, he had his hands, his feet, and an innate understanding of mechanical sympathy. He was already in his 40s when he dominated, earning him the nickname El Chueco, or the bow-legged one. His most legendary drive came at the Nürburgring in 1957. After a botched pit stop, he was nearly a minute behind the leaders. What followed was an act of God-tier driving. He broke the lap record 10 times, hunting down the Ferraris with a ferocity that defied his age and the sheer danger of the circuit. He won the race, and with it, his final championship. Fangio wasn't just a driver, he was the foundation stone upon which all modern Formula One greatness has been built. So there you have it. The gods of the grid, Schumacher, the relentless machine, Hamilton, the modern icon, Prost, the cold-blooded professor, Fangio, the original master. Trying to definitively name the greatest is a fool's errand. It's like trying to argue whether a sledgehammer is better than a scalpel. They are different tools for different jobs, all brilliant in their own unique way. You can argue about statistics and win percentages until you're blue in the face, but it misses the point. And this is a big but, for me, it always comes back to one man. It comes back to the feeling, it comes back to the passion. Formula One should be about more than just efficiency and lap times. It should stir the soul, it should be dramatic, poetic, and sometimes utterly unhinged. It should make the hairs on your arms stand up. And no one, absolutely no one, did that better than Ayrton Senna. He was the heart of Formula One. He was the reason you'd sit down to watch a race even if it was pouring with rain, because you knew something magical might happen. He was the speed, the danger, the artistry, and the soul of motorsport, all wrapped up in one yellow helmet. The others may have matched or beaten his numbers, but no one has ever matched his aura. And on that bombshell, it's time to end. Good night.